Hey everybody. So this is like kind of the second live stream of December. As you go back and watch this, there's one before this. I talked a little bit about goals and kind of where we're at and where we want to go, and looking towards the new year. What's that? Like what do we want to do? So I said last week in my video that I was going to talk all the month of December about goals, and we're going to take different aspects of goals. So looking at that, what I want to share with you, and it feels like everybody's probably like, yeah, Joe, this is easy enough to do. I just like write a number down on a piece of paper, right? If you look at the headline or title of this video, it's like really how to set a money goal that you can easily achieve. A lot of people, again, are like, oh, that's easy. Just write it down and you like go do stuff to make it happen. Well, let's break it down a little bit. I want to give you some thoughts or provoke some thoughts here around really what is a goal and how easy can we achieve it, and when we don't, what happens, right? There's some truths around how we interact with money that I see all the time, in almost everybody, honestly. Because what happens is we set a goal. The problem is that most of the time, when we set that goal, um, the emotional intention behind the goal isn't really a goal as I describe it or I define it. We set more of an expectation for what we think has to happen. There's a lot in here. We could go to like lots of different places through lots of different attitudes and um, touch on lots of different things. But I want to break down and make it real simple for you. And then the next few weeks we can kind of break it down a little bit, because I think it's interesting and fascinating with how we interact with goals and how we um, really emotionally handle what happens when we set a goal and what we're willing to do or not do to hit that goal. Right? Because here's the deal. Most of the time when we set goals, we actually set expectations. Expectations are really dangerous because when we expect something, it has to look like the best case scenario of how we thought it up. And then we go implement, and it's got to look like that. Otherwise, when we get to the end, it doesn't look that way. Easy enough. I was talking to a client this last week, and I'm like, hey, let's celebrate like what happened over the last 6 weeks. And he's like, well, I hit my goal, I think. I'm like, you think? I'm like, let's break it down. Let's break down the numbers and see, did you make it or not? And he's like, well, I hit the money goal. Like, he had an X amount of money that he wanted to make in 6 weeks. He's like, well, I hit it. I'm like, okay, so what's the but? What's the piece behind that? He's like, well, it didn't happen how I thought it would happen. And so I'm not sure if I can count it. And I just kind of looked at him, and inside my brain, I'm like, but you hit your goal, right? But if you listen to his language, and this is how like 99% of people think out there, is that when we set a goal, and it's just not about money, but we're going to focus on money. When we set a money goal, we have this expectation that it has to look X, Y, and Z. So he's like, when he first said it, he's like, it's got to look like X, Y, and Z, and I have to have it come in like through these manners for me to hit my goal. And guess what? He didn't make any money of the ways he thought he was going to make money. They all came in through different ways. He still hit his goal, but he was disappointed because he had an expectation of how it had to come in. And that's the point I want to talk about today. Because there is a difference between setting a goal and kind of leaning into the attitude of command and then having it show up. Because we know it's going to show up. We know we're going to hit our revenue goals. There's a very different feeling around when we set that and we have an expectation that we have to do it, via like these 3 things we're going to sell or this one service. Because that's where we start to fall in the trap. When we don't allow ourselves to have the flexibility for money to come flow freely into our lives, we set ourselves up for failure right from the beginning. Because even if we hit our quote unquote goal, we're still upset because it didn't happen the way we wanted it to. So watch for that when you set your goals. Be open and honest with yourself. When you set a money goal, how can the money come in? Play around a little bit with that. Now, it doesn't mean that that's how it will show up. I want you to be clear on that. But it can be some ways of how it could show up. And there's a difference, because what happens is we start getting our minds going in the way that it can start looking for new possibilities. If we don't ever jumpstart it, it's not going to happen. But don't be so attached to that outcome, to that number, that when you don't hit it, or if you don't hit it the way you want to, right? I've seen both those cases all the time. Like in a lot of different clients, like they'll not hit their goal or they won't hit it the way they want to. Still celebrate it. Celebrate what you did make. If you have a goal, say, hey, I want to make 10,000 this month. If I want to take 10,000 before the end of the year, and you hit 9,000, well, come on, you should celebrate that. If you hit 2,000, if you want to hit 500,000 in your business this year, and you got to 400, and last year you did like 2, well, that's something to celebrate. But what happens is we set these goals, and we always like have this eye to exactly how it has to happen in this perfect way. If we don't hit the goal, then all the gremlins in our head and all the people in the past who've said that you have to have a goal and you got to hit it this certain way, and if you don't hit goals, then you're not successful, blah, blah, blah. And when we lean into that kind of energy, of course we're going to be unhappy with our results. But if we can be happy with our results and say, hey, I want to push it a little bit further next time, that's when we get in this really good energy of kind of momentum and accomplishment. And when we're in that place, we find joy because we're doing what we want to. And as we continue to step into that, we find more money comes into our lives. And we're disappointed less with the outcome. 2020 hasn't been the best year for everybody. I could say, well, there's some things I had to cancel. And if I looked at all the things that didn't go right this year, I could be pretty grumpy. But what I choose to do is look at the things that went right. Because those are the things I want to take into next year. Those are the things I want to replicate and amplify. So celebrate what you have accomplished. Celebrate where you got this year. And as you start to set your goals for next year, remember to set goals and not have expectations about income. As you do that, you can play around with it a little bit. You can have a little more flexible structure. And know that it will happen as you continue to choose into yourself, as you continue to choose into the impact you want to make and the lives you want to help uplift. Because every time we do that, the money starts to come in. People see us. And when they see us, they buy into us. So if you want to hit a money goal and achieve it every time, create a real goal. Because the more you do that, the more you're going to start hitting those goals. Drop the expectations. Drop the should haves. Drop the I have tos. And when we do that, we find pure joy and bliss in our lives. And hey, money loves that stuff. Our lives will be better because of it. So, go make your goal. Drop in the comments what that goal is for next year. Let's see some numbers. I want to see them. Let me help celebrate with you what you want to accomplish. Let's create a 2021 that's going to rock the socks off of 2020. So, until next week, we'll see you.